Welcome back to the deep dive. So, a listener sent us just an incredible set of sources, articles, some theological reflections, research notes,
Really fascinating stuff.
and they all kind of circle around this one profound tension. A tension that I think a lot of people, especially sincere-driven people, they really feel it.
They do. It's that gap, right? The gap between your potential and your reality.
Exactly. You feel like you have gifts, you have this, urgent pull toward making an impact, but you're stuck. You're stuck in this repetitive, ordinary, day-to-day life.
Then you look at that routine. I mean, whether it's the carpool runs, the spreadsheets, the never-ending chores, and you see it as a delay.
Like a waiting room.
A waiting room,
Yeah.
exactly. You think the real mission, the real preparation, that all starts later, once I get the platform or the title or whatever.
And that unspoken question, when does my life actually become significant? That's exactly where this source material just lands with so much power. It proposes this core, really counterintuitive thesis that spiritual authority, the kind that lasts, the kind that can hold real weight, it's almost never forged in the public moments.
It's forged in the small, unseen acts of obedience that feel, and the sources use this phrase, painfully ordinary.
That's a huge shift in perspective.
It is. And that's our mission for this deep dive. We're going to unpack why God's primary training ground for, trustworthy leaders is often the closest, quietest, and honestly most demanding place.
Your current life.
Your current life. The problem, as the sources all agree, isn't a lack of calling. It's a fundamental misreading of formation. We're confusing visibility with readiness.
Okay, so let's start there. Let's unpack this cultural obsession we have with acceleration. Because the danger you mentioned, it's real.
It's very real.
We live in a time where, you can get influence almost instantly on digital platforms. Leadership is accelerated, and visibility gets mistaken for readiness all the time.
And the cost is high. We see leaders faltering under pressure because that preparation was too shallow.
So think about just the pace of modern life.
Yeah, the world prizes what? Brilliance, speed, measurable outcomes.
How fast can you do it? And can you look good while you're doing it?
And sheer prominence.
Yeah.
Just being seen, that's the reward.
Which is probably why so many gifted people feel like their, unglamorous, repetitive daily life is some kind of failure. They feel underutilized.
Precisely. But the sources show that Scripture demands something completely different from that metric. God doesn't use brilliance or speed to shape people who can be trusted with weight.
He uses obedience.
Uses obedience. I mean, the problem in so many areas is not a lack of gifted people. It's a lack of deeply formed, trustworthy people.
So that brings us to the really disruptive question that these sources are posing. What if the very life you are so eager to move beyond, those routines that feel beneath you or beneath your potential? What if that is the primary, most necessary way God is preparing you right now?
And that just challenges everything, that idea that significance is something that's deferred, something for later.
It does.
We have to define what we mean by obedience here because it's so easily misunderstood. Often, it gets reduced to what the sources call instrumental obedience.
Okay, what's that?
It's just checking boxes,
Fair.
following a rule book to get a reward.
So like a kid doing a chore just to get dessert, not because they actually care about helping out.
That's a perfect analogy. That's instrumental. But biblical obedience, the sources argue, it's not about task completion. It's fundamentally about relational fidelity.
Relational fidelity. So staying rightly related to God in the middle of the task.
Yes. The motivation is completely different.
So the action itself, doing the spreadsheet, changing the diaper, that's less important than the heart posture you have while you're doing it.
That is the key. The summary is trust before action, love before labor. If your obedience is cut off from that relational root, it just feels like a burden. It's brittle.
And it breaks under pressure.
It breaks. But when it's rooted in love, in a real desire to align yourself with God, it's formative, it's freeing. And that distinction explains why so many talented people just stall out spiritually. They're chasing outcomes without embracing the hidden formation.
Okay, this is a perfect transition then. Let's move into this idea of the hidden workshop, because the source material brings up overwhelming evidence for this, especially when it points to the incarnation.
Yes, the scandal of the ordinary.
This idea that God consistently chooses obscurity for formation.
And this is, I think, maybe the most critical and yet most overlooked theological detail of Jesus' life.
The timeline.
The timeline. Think about it. After he's found in the temple at 12, Luke gives us this one verse. He just went down to Nazareth with them and was obedient to them.
And that single simple sentence covers, what, almost 3 decades?
Almost 20 years. From aged 12 to 30. Nearly 20 years of the Son of God's life, and we have no record of sermons, no miracles, no public anything.
Just quiet submission. Ordinary family life.
And the sources are so clear on this. That was not a delay of his mission, that obedience was the mission. It was this profound act of alignment, not weakness.
Which just flies in the face of our whole culture. I mean, if you have the power to change the world, you're supposed to start now, immediately.
Right. If you're the Son of God, why not accelerate things? But Paul, later in Philippians, he interprets this exact sequence. He says, exaltation follows obedience. But the obedience was that daily expression of humility and trust. So the authority that came after the resurrection, it flowed out of that submission, not in spite of it.
We understand the details of that hidden life for a second. Jesus was known as a tekton.
A craftsman, a builder.
We translate it as carpenter, but yeah, a laborer, a job with zero religious prestige. He was formed in a workshop, not a temple, not some fancy school.
And the fact that the ultimate authority on earth was first a blue-collar worker in a tiny village, it just affirms this profound truth.
What's that?
That ordinary work, done well, is a sacred and legitimate arena for obedience to God. It completely dismantles this false spiritual hierarchy that says only ministry is sacred.
So if the Son of God learned obedience and trustworthiness by, sawing wood and leveling floors every day, then no task that you do in faithfulness is insignificant.
None. And once you see that pattern in Jesus, you see it everywhere in the Bible.
Okay, give us some examples.
Well, the sources list so many of these hidden years. Moses was raised in Pharaoh's court, right? But his real formation for leadership took 40 years.
Tending sheep in the desert.
Tending sheep. He went from a prince to a shepherd. That's a huge step down in visibility.
And David?
David's a perfect example. He's anointed king by Samuel, this huge moment, and what does he do right after?
He goes back to the pasture.
He goes back to the pasture. He learns courage and responsibility in total obscurity, fighting lions and bears that no one ever saw. And that's what prepared him to face Goliath in public.
And Paul, too. After his conversion, he doesn't just launch his ministry.
No, he retreats. He goes into Arabia for years of private formation.
So the synthesis here, it seems so clear. God entrusts visible influence only to those who have first mastered invisible faithfulness.
That's it. Integrity is the soil where authority grows. If you haven't been faithful in the hidden, the public pressures will just expose that you have no foundation.
Okay, that leads us directly to the governing principle for how authority is actually granted. God's measuring stick is just completely different from the world's.
Completely. We're talking about what the sources call the principle of smallness.
From Luke 16:10.
Right. Whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much. The sources stress that authority is never a right you get from your gifting. It's granted incrementally.
It flows from proven fidelity in the small things.
Not from presumed entitlement.
But I can hear a listener pushing back on this right now. I might be thinking, isn't it irresponsible if someone who's uniquely gifted doesn't accelerate their influence? If the need is urgent, why wait?
That's a fantastic question, and it gets to the heart of the danger of confusing gifting with governance.
Okay, break that down.
Gifting, talent, charisma, communication skills, that can attract a crowd really fast. But governance requires character, and character it's slow-cooked. Authority that bypasses that formative obedience, it's almost certainly going to collapse under pressure because the integrity just hasn't been proven when the stakes were low.
It's like the difference between a sprinter and a marathon runner. One is impressive right away, but the other one has built the deep, resilient foundation they need to endure.
Exactly. And look at the historical examples, like Joseph, a man of huge vision, huge prophecy, but he spent years proving himself reliable in tiny, tedious jobs.
Managing Potiphar's household, managing the prison.
All small things. Only after he proved himself faithful in those hidden, low-stakes places was he entrusted with governing all of Egypt.
He had to master management under constraint before he got it under freedom.
Absolutely. And David, again, he's the counterpoint to Goliath. The fight with Goliath was just the visible proof that David had already mastered courage and trust while facing hidden threats in the pasture.
The hidden work prepares you for the high-stakes moment.
Yes.
So if obscurity is the workshop, what's the curriculum? The sources get really detailed here, describing these 4 primary arenas they call ordinary obedience zones.
And these are so practical. They're the specific daily places where our faithfulness is tested and where God is actively refining the character he can trust with authority.
Okay, let's walk through them. First up, work or vocation.
Right, your job. This is where discipline, reliability, and stewardship are cultivated. Just consistent, excellent labor.
And the resisted obedience here is often procrastination, isn't it? Or seeking shortcuts because you think a task is beneath you.
It is. And the logic is, if you can't submit to the authority structure at your office or consistently hit deadlines on mundane stuff, how can you be trusted with a spiritual mission where the stakes are eternal?
That's a powerful connection.
Faithfulness at work, honoring deadlines, integrity with small financial things, that's the backbone.
Okay, the second zone is a tough one. Family obligations.
This is where humility, wisdom, and especially patience get cultivated, often through just pure fatigue and unmet expectations.
Family life is the seminary of service. It exposes your heart in a way public ministry never will.
You can't fake humility when you're exhausted at 11 p.m. dealing with a sick kid or an argument. The lack of applause, the monotony, it demands a kind of faithfulness that's essential for real authority.
And then outside the home, the third zone is church or community service.
Yes, and this is about servant leadership, often through the unseen, thankless tasks, managing logistics, cleaning up, quietly mentoring someone.
And this one is a laboratory for testing your motives.
Totally. Are you serving for human applause or for God's approval alone? If you're skipping the setup tasks because you feel like you deserve to be on the platform?
Your ambition is stronger than your servant's heart.
Exactly. Faithfulness here ensures that when you do get a visible role, it's rooted in a tested desire to serve, not a desire for attention.
And finally, the fourth zone, which kind of undergirds all the others, private disciplines.
Prayer and study. This is about intimacy, resilience, sincerity. It's testing your capacity to obey when God is literally the only one watching.
So if a leader is brilliant in public, but their prayer life is shallow,
they're building on sand. These disciplines are invisible, but they're vital. Lapses here, they almost always lead to burnout or moral failure down the line because there's no deep root sustaining the work.
But the natural human response to all of this, the work, the family, the thankless tasks, is frustration, the monotony, the repetition.
It feels like you're fighting the same little battles over and over.
Right. And a listener might be thinking, this small, ordinary stuff is just getting in my way.
And the sources address that directly. It's a crucial insight. That frustration, that monotony, those recurring irritations, they aren't interruptions or obstacles.
They're not.
No. They are deliberate instruments of formation. They're a teaching tool.
A tool for what?
They're designed to cultivate perseverance, patience, humility. God uses repetition to refine us because it teaches us to submit our emotional resistance to spiritual growth.
It forces you to ask, am I faithful even when this task doesn't bring me joy or recognition?
Yes. When James talks about counting trials as joy, it's about recognizing that this tedious, frustrating environment is precisely what's producing the resilient character you need for tomorrow.
Wow. That just flips the script entirely. The thing you wish would go away is the very curriculum designed to mature you.
The refinement happens in the heat of the mundane.
So, as we wrap up, what does this all mean for the listener who is just so eager for impact right now?
I think the grand takeaway is this. God is not concerned with accelerating your visibility. He's concerned with establishing your faithfulness.
The ordinary routine of today.
Yeah.
It isn't a pause between meaningful moments. It is the work itself.
And we have to resist that primary pitfall the sources identify, which they call the future ministry myth.
That's the temptation to romanticize a future season of usefulness, a big platform, a clearer calling, while, quietly despising your current assignments.
Exactly. If you despise the hidden work, you will lack the character to handle the visible work responsibly. You can't despise the soil where authority takes root.
It's the difference between authority that's fragile and depends on what other people think, and spiritual authority, which is resilient, humble, and founded on the quiet weight of a life that's consistently aligned with God.
If you are faithful when no one is watching, you'll be able to stand firm when the whole world is watching.
Which leaves us with this final, powerful thought drawn directly from the sources for you to consider as you step back into your day. As you look at that frustrating to-do list, what if the authority you are asking God to grant is already being extended to you, disguised as today's assignments? The challenge is to stop waiting for formation to begin, and to recognize that in the quiet discipline of this moment, it's already underway. Go look at your ordinary life differently.